introduce yourself?
Okay.
Welcome.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Sophie. I competed in Miss Regal World recently last year between 2021 and 2022. I found it a very, very good experience. The amount of amazing people you met and learning about different cultures and just first pageant I've ever actually competed in. So that was quite exciting. And I met lots of people through it.
And so I had the pleasure of meeting Sophie in this competition, and it became more of it was a sisterhood to where everybody got to know each other, and I'm still friends with most of the people that competed with me last year. So the purpose of this interview is to let people here in Norway, you're speaking to Norway right now, so, to let them know more about New Zealand from the perspective of somebody who is from New Zealand, who speaks with an accent from New Zealand, who can give you that flavor of what the country is all about. I lived in New Zealand many, many years ago, 1995, 1996, but I'm sure it's changed a lot. So, I want Sophie to tell
Yeah.
us about New Zealand.
So New Zealand is it's not Australia before I because that is actually our country that we like kind of like the United States and Canada. So if you think of that, that's a lot of like competition, and it's like located way like 3-4 hours on a plane from Australia, but we're our own continent in the Pacific Island. Um, New Zealand. So New Zealand, where I live currently, is in Taranaki, which is down on the west coast of New Zealand, and we're located. Oh, New Zealand is located mostly around beaches and ocean, and so most of us love the beaches here, and our beaches are beautiful. Um, so New Zealand, what's it like to live here? It's an amazing place to live here. The country is beautiful, and I recommend coming here because you'll see the mountains, especially where I live now, because I haven't always lived here. There's beautiful mountain and a beach here, and it's got perfect scenery. Um, there's amazing nature, so if you're really into nature and tramping and hiking and stuff, I'm sure Norway has that. But like there's just lots of tramping, outdoors activities. Our summers are amazing, and
Yes,
currently we're
that's
in winter at the
wonderful
moment.
that you talk about the summer, winter, because right now it's winter for you and it's summer here in Norway. So tell us a little bit about that, about the different activities for the different seasons of the year that people get involved in.
Okay, in the summer it's mainly swimming, surfing, because surfing's very, very popular in our beaches. Um, what else? In winter it's more about hiking, tramping. Oh no, that's more summer. Winter would be like snowboarding. There is snowboarding here, and skiing because we've got the mountains like Mount Taranaki and Mount Egmont, which a lot of people come to our country kind of for from like Australia and stuff. What else? Netball's a winter sport as well. And yeah.
So, out of all the cities that I visited when I was living in New Zealand, I really enjoyed my experience in Queenstown because I
Yeah.
felt like it was party 24/7. It was just like a good time 24/7. Which one is your favorite city in New Zealand and why?
I love Wellington because one, it's the capital, and two, because it's like it's got everything here, like kind of like the party central, but it's got everything there and it's close and it's in the north. It's just located like 6 hours from me. Oh, that's something else about New Zealand. Everything's kind of close, so you can drive to most cities within like a day from where we are. And yeah, so it's got like Wellington's really cool. It's got the beehive, which is where the Parliament building is, like the Parliament, yeah. And yeah.
Yeah, so Wellington, I was in Wellington a couple of times. I lived in Masterton, which is out in the boonies. It was out in the country, but we would take the train to go to Wellington. It was quite close. But so when you talk about Wellington being the capital, some people assume it's Auckland for some reason.
Yeah. Some people, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's, oh, I could be wrong. I think it is the capital because of the beehive. Even though it's not the biggest city in New Zealand, it's because the Parliament building is there. I'm pretty
And
sure.
talk about that for a little bit. I'm not a very political person, but here when we teach international English, the kids get to learn a little bit about the political system of different countries. And here in Norway, they have a monarchy and they have a parliament as well. How is it? How is it in New Zealand?
Yeah, we have the Parliament. So every year, every 3 years, we vote for our Parliament, who becomes the Prime Minister every 3 years. And at the moment, it's Labour, which is just her name's Jacinta Ardern, and she is the Prime Minister of New Zealand because majority of New Zealand voted for her last election. So it's more like so everyone votes once you're over 18, and we all vote choosing who we want as the Prime Minister.
Is it mandatory? Do you have to vote, or is it something that you choose after a certain age?
Um, it's not that you have to, they just really want you to. Like, it's not compulsory, nothing can be compulsory in that way. But it's like wanted that most people do it. Otherwise, you fill out a different form saying yeah, so we get like in form or something online saying, do you want to enroll once you're over 18? I think I could be wrong. No, it's just, sorry about that. But
But the general population, they have that right, even if it's not mandatory, but they have the right to choose. So that is a
yeah, yeah.
very positive thing. Well, one other thing that I really appreciated when I was in New Zealand was the culture that there are people from all sorts of different ethnicities, but the main one that I got to see the most were the Maoris. And
Yeah.
what do you know about that? And what can you tell us about that?
The Maldives. So the Maldives, how do I say this? Like, it's back before, back years and years ago when the Maldives have been here for like, it's kind of part of our history, our ancient history. They came into the country before Europeans. And then there was a lot of war. There was a place in Tauranga called the Battle of Gate Pa, and in that Battle of Gate Pa, uh, like they fought against the Europeans for Europeans stepping on their land first because it's new to the Europeans. Yeah, so they were here first. Is mainly my point. And then their culture is very different to ours. Like, I don't know completely all of their culture, but I know that like Māori is language. It's a language. They speak their own language. And they, when I was in primary school years and years ago, they we had to learn Māori as a subject at one of my schools because it's a language that's becoming extinct. So yeah.
So you're quite a bit younger than me. So when was that you went to? Was it elementary school?
Primary, so that's
Primary.
years 1 to 6. So that's your first schooling after kinder. So
When was
about
that?
five till 13, maybe 5 to 11.
Right. Because I'm
I know we
49
started
years
at
old.
5.
Yeah. I'm 49 years
Yeah,
old. So when I was in New Zealand, I was in New Zealand 1995. Were you born?
no.
You're probably not even born. Yeah. So that was
No, I was born
because
2 years after that. So yeah,
because at that time when I was living there, one of the things that was really interesting was that I got to live with a Maori family, and they would
oh, yeah,
tell me that the language was not in schools like that. It was not like that. So I'm thinking this probably came later when you were going to
yeah,
school.
mostly.
So
Yeah.
and what about that? Like when you go into a shop, when you go into a public place, is there, for example, signs in Maori, or can you get like your menu in Maori? How is the language in practical terms used in a country?
So all I've actually ever come across in the language aspect is no, there's not like signs, but it's just in schools. Oh, there's actually a multi-language week though. So there's a week where I forgot what week it is and everything, but there's a week where we dedicate like the newsreaders and everything read like in Māori. So that comes in a week. I don't know the dates, so don't quote me on the dates. And if we still do that, I don't know, but it was there at one point in time. There's no like you can't get things in different language to Māori and stuff, but there's just a lot of ancient history with the Māoris, and yeah.
One of the things that I talked about with the family I lived with, they would say to me that there was still a lot of inequality and a degree of discrimination. Talk about that and how do you perceive it?
Well, how I perceive it is yes, there is discrimination. There's always, but it's not as in Australia they have the Aborigines, so it's not as bad as that. There's just certain things that we like that there is discrimination sometimes with it. I can't really explain it how,
But
but there just is.
I hear you. It's one thing knowing it's there, and it's another thing experiencing it yourself. So it's like you know it's there, but you yourself you wouldn't be able to say from a first person perspective. But
No.
what I noticed was that at that time, 1995, 1996, there were a lot of talks about the land, people that wanted to claim the land. As you mentioned before, they were there before the Europeans came and colonized. So, what do you think about that, having the right to the land that belonged to the family, or what do you think about that personally?
I personally agree with that because it's been part of their history, but I don't personally agree that they like take over everything. That's just my personal opinion. But I agree that they should have their land. And yeah.
The family I lived with, they had property on land that belonged to their family, their ancestors. So what they did, it was like they would take turns spending time there, which I thought was quite neat. So they got like they divided the year to where they could use the property, they could use the land. And one of the things that I celebrated when I was there was Waitangi Day on the
Yes,
6th of,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's 6th of February. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the treaty of so years and years ago, before when the Maldives first came, when the Europeans first stepped land on into New Zealand with the Maldives, there became a treaty of Waitangi, and it's a piece of paper, and they signed it to make the discrimination less common, so they would be able to have the same rights as Europeans. And every year we celebrate it. We celebrate it in February, I think. I'm pretty sure it's February. And it's a day just to remember the treat. It's called the Treaty of Waitangi. So it's like a big piece of paper, and up in Auckland there's a big signing of it, and you can have a look at it. I don't know exactly where, but it's like in a somewhere.
And
Hard to explain.
I remember going to something in Wellington called the Festival of the Elements, and during this festival, they had different dance groups, and they it was not only because I had this misconception about only the Maoris, but there were people from the Cook Islands. There were different types of dances and cultures because there's quite a bit. Quite a fair bit of people from different cultures in New Zealand. Do you think that is very does that go well with society? Do you feel like people are more accepting, or how is that having so many cultures?
Having so many cultures is a very, very good thing. Because I'm European, I've never experienced like the back. How do I say this? I've Yeah, I think it's a very, very good thing that we have those cultures because it opens your mind up to new things and you can see things from different perspectives. And yeah, and
One of my
also
favorite, yeah, go ahead.
With the Māori, they actually have a thing called the marae, which is like a whānau building where they like celebrate things, and that's just something I just remembered then. So they
Is it
celebrate
is it
they
like a temple?
kind kind of, but smaller, and they just have
Right,
they it's on their lands and stuff, and
right.
that's where they celebrate the events and stuff, and they share food.
When we first started talking, you talked about the beaches over there. My favorite beach was Arkell's Bay up in the Auckland region. What is your favorite beach?
I love Gisborne. Anything on the east coast of New Zealand because I've lived there. I was actually born there. Um, Anything on the east coast of New Zealand. I live on the west coast, and the beaches here are a bit rougher, so it's a bit more surfy type. So I don't know, but on the east coast, the beaches are beautiful, and also down in the South Island because we have two islands, the North and the South Island, and those beaches on that area are beautiful too. And we have a place called the Milford Sound, which is in like the Fiordland region, which is another mountains because we're quite close to the Antarctic, as you probably know or might know. And yeah,
Yeah, I went to see Milford Sound. It was really beautiful. What I did, I lived on the North Island when I was there. I was in um in Masterton most of the time, but I also traveled all the way up to Manganui,
Mount
and
Maunganui.
then yeah, and then I went to the South Island on it was kind of like a cruise to different cities, and we went to Christchurch, and we ended up in Queenstown, and everybody did different crazy things like parachuting and whitewater rafting, and I didn't do any of that, but I watched other people do it. There's a lot of radical sports.
Yeah, whitewater rafting is quite scary, but it's fun.
So we're approaching now, okay, 20 minutes. Wow, that was lovely. You have given us so much information, and I'm sure the students will appreciate that. This will probably air in August, in the beginning of the term here, but it is recorded, and you feel free to if you want to put it on your YouTube or to use it for other purposes. And but yeah, they will really enjoy watching this. It's been very, very educational.
Thank you. Okay, see ya.